Hello my friends, this is the Hudson Bay axe that I'm going to show you how we're going to make. We're using an axe that has been thrown away. This is the axe that we're starting with. I'm using an abrasive cutoff wheel to do most of the cutting. You could use a hand grinder or a hacksaw to cut your axe head. To make your cuts, you need to see reference lines. So I'm applying masking tape onto the axe and going to use a pencil to draw the lines. If you have soapstone, that would be much more desirable to write on metal than the tape. The Hudson Bay axe head is a very desirable shape to have for a backpacking or a camping axe. It gives you approximately the same cutting surface and a lighter axe to be carrying. You may notice that I left the handle still attached to this axe head, and the main reason why I did that is it allows me to get two clamping points on this when I'm using the cutoff grinder. If you only had one clamping point, you would have a tendency to have your workpiece turn or move while you're cutting, which could break this cutting wheel. It's very important that you wear a particle mask when you're grinding. Also, you need to have safety glasses. There is a good chance of sparks or the grinding wheel breaking, and it's extremely loud, so you want to have ear protection while you're doing the cut. As I'm cutting, I'm watching where the cutting wheel is ending, and I want to stop right at the intersection of the cuts. I'll rotate the hammer or the axe head and cut from the other side, making the horizontal cut, cutting again at the point of intersection. The underside of the cut did not make it the same depth as the top, so the cut has to be finished with a hand hacksaw. Both curves will have to be finished with the hand hacksaw. The metal that the axe head is made out of is just about as hard as the hacksaw blade, but the hacksaw will make it through. You'll probably ruin the blade in the process. When you get the cut just about completely finished, there may be a little sticking or holding it together, and that can be broken just by hammering it apart, and you won't damage the axe blade itself. You can see here that the edges of this hammering end of the blade has mushroom. Those need to be removed, so I'm marking those. Also, I want to adjust the cutting edge of this blade to conform more to the Hudson Bay shape. Use an angle grinder to remove the mushrooming end. Also, you want to use that surface grinder, the angle grinder, to grind the entire surface of this and remove any of the rusting and pitting. Also, to adjust the shape of that blade end. When using this type of a grinder, you want to maintain a low angle of approach to the grinding surface. Also, always keep the grinding wheel moving so that you don't grind in grooves or divots. While working this axe head, you want to try to keep the metal from overheating. You can see here that even though I've been grinding, it's still not so hot that I can't be touching the surface. This way I'm going to maintain the heat treatment and tempering of the axe itself. On this end of the grind, I'm trying to remove that lower edge of the blade to conform more to the Hudson Bay shape. When you finish that, flip it over and grind the areas where you cut and blend those two surfaces together. Remember to keep moving your grinder as you're working the surfaces, and only use the forward portion of this grinding wheel. The angle grinder left fairly large grooves, and to remove those grooves I'm using my belt sander, and again keeping the belt sander moving, not holding in a stationary spot. Also, as I'm grinding with the belt pulling away from the blade of the axe. If I had that in reverse, it would very easily cut the sanding belt. After you finish with the belt sander, then I went to my orbital sander, and I went from a 80 grit, and then I shifted to a 120 grit. I'll finish the sanding by hand.
320.
Here I'm using the 320 grit, then I'll go to a 400 grit,
400.
then to a 600 grit, and I'll be using that in my kitchen sink and underwater. It's wet, dry silicon carbide paper. Here is the finished axe. To achieve a mirror finish, you could take this one step more and take it to a buffing wheel. I am finished at this point. I weighed the axe head. It weighs 3/4 of 1 pound, which will make a real nice lightweight camping axe. You can see here we went from an axe that was discarded. It was not sharp. It was thrown away, and we reworked the axe, and we came up with this very desirable Hudson Bay axe. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.